Hey folks, back again on my Sunday morning at 5 a.m. So never let it be said that I'm not committed. So what we're going to be talking about today is dynamic mixing. And there's a few different definitions I have around that. Which I'm going to just go into first, because really, let me just tell you. Well, there's three different ways that I think about dynamic mixing, and they all kind of play into how I'm intending to and have started to, because I've only just moved into this new place. How I'm intending to actually released music rather than simply live jams and releasing them. I mean, I'm going to keep doing that as well, but also finishing specific tracks, like normal people, and releasing them, shorter things, rather than just all of the music being live sort of extended things. I mean, that is going to continue, but I'm also interested, because really the purpose of this Zentor project, one of the main purposes, is to help other people by me developing, because the way that I was developing a lot of the stuff in the previous 10 years before I came back to making music was simply by coaching people and helping them, and then developing different things through the helping of them. Now I've added me doing it as well as continuing to coach other people. And so one of the purposes of Zentor is to develop new ways of helping people, myself, as well as, doing it the way I was doing it before through coaching. And obviously not everybody wants to I don't mean just as in it's a really small thing to do, but some people want to produce singles and 6-minute tracks, and if it was just me left to my own devices, I'd probably just play live sets for the rest of my life. But that's not the only purpose of this Zentor project for me to do what I want to do. It's also to help others to develop ways of doing things which help you. So essentially, when I say break, I mean I was continuing to live stream every day. When I had the distance from what I was doing as Zentor, which moving into this new house and new studio created, I was sort of thinking about, right, so how am I going to do that? I kind of realized that what I was doing as Zentor was only, it was helping people to a certain extent, but it wasn't doing the thing that a lot of people want to do. So I was thinking about doing a lot of free writing around how to kind of shift things around or add something to it, which would do that, which would help you produce the kind of music that you want to produce, actually produce singles, produce tracks which are 6 minutes in length rather than 60 minutes in length, which is what I was doing before. Not that I'm going to stop doing that, but this as well. So dynamic and I'd had this insight about the difference between dynamic music making and static music making, and realized that a lot of my challenges over the years had come from the fact that I was making music statically. I was kind of assembling music, and the whole DAW versus DAWless, hardware versus software debate that's not the point. That's not the issue. The issue is static versus dynamic, because music is an in-time medium, obviously. If we didn't experience music in time, it would just be so that's every piece of music ever written. Even that's in time. It wouldn't be possible. It's not possible to experience music any other way. So why is it that we have been drawn into the situation where we're making the majority of our music out of time, particularly in electronic music, but in lots of different ways? So if we can start to make or like bring into our process more in-time things, not only will we have more fun, not only will we actually start to express ourselves in the moment, not only will we find it easy to focus because there's an element of risk involved, not only is it quicker, but also we'll be feeling like musicians again, or maybe for the first time, rather than office workers checking our email. And that's not about it being on a computer or out of a computer. That's not what this is about. This is about how because you can do what I'm talking about, all in the box on a DAW, just as you can have a really static process with a wall full of modular gear. So mixing is kind of naturally tends to be, of all of the areas of the creative process, bar maybe mastering, but we're not going to talk about that today. But mixing is probably tends to be the most static area of the lot. Idea generation, particularly if you're playing things in, it's kind of easy to be dynamic about it. But mixing tends to be, although not always, it tends to be quite static. You're kind of, making sure that getting everything in balance and all that kind of thing. But really, it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, if you just look at all the dub guys who used to play their desk, I mean, some people still do, play the mixing desk, you'll see that mixing can be a dynamic process. But that's not the only definition of dynamic I'm talking about. I mean, one of the things that I'm looking to do is not basically, by the time I get to the point where I'm finishing something, I don't actually have to mix very much at the end. Yeah, that I am dynamically upgrading the mix. The mix over multiple pieces of music. So it's almost like using the process to upgrade your mix. And in a sense, this means making some choices which are seemingly more static, but that allows you to be dynamic. So what I mean is, and this is the second version of second definition of dynamic mixing that I'm talking about, is having a set of sounds, a band, if you like, and through the making of your music to progressively upgrade what you're doing to those sounds. So not reinventing the wheel every time. So having a new kick drum, a new hi-hat, a new this, a new that every single time. Instead, choosing something or a set of things and upgrading your mix through the process. So instead of thinking about the static end result, what is the best process to make the best finished music? Yeah, that's the way most people, it makes common sense, think about what they're doing, I believe. Instead of asking that question, what's the best process and the best setup to make the best finished music? Okay, that's focusing on the end result, the static end result that never changes. Instead of asking that question, ask a different question, which is, what does my finished music show me about which can improve my setup and my process? So we flipped it. Instead of focus on the static end result, which once it's done, is done forever, you're shifting your focus on to the dynamic element, which is the process, the actual process of doing it. And then the static thing, the results, the static things become the information, the data you use to progressively upgrade your setup and your process. So that's the second kind of definition of dynamic I'm talking about here, right? So how do we do that? How do we do that in relation to mixing? And let me just say hello to a few people. Hi, Kev. Hello, James. Hello, Good Clean, and hi, Ram. Good to see you here. Probably on a Saturday afternoon or night for you. Oh, no, it's Monday morning today, isn't it? It's not Sunday. What am I talking about? It's Monday morning here, 5 a.m. So, yes, it was Sunday night for you. Sorry, I have my weekend on a Sunday and a Monday. My Monday is a Sunday, although I am working this morning, but everyone else is in bed, so I'm allowed to. So anyway, I got woken up actually this morning at 3 a.m. by my little 5-year-old who had a bad dream. Oh, so anyway, why don't you post in the chat while I'm talking a bit and showing you a few things, what your biggest challenges with mixing are? I mean, how do you mix things at the moment? What's the way that you kind of mix music? How do you think about mixing music? In fact, let me ask you a more specific question. What do you think you are doing when you are mixing? What's the point? What is the end goal of a mix? Yeah. What's your end goal with a mix? Yeah. How do you know it's getting better? Yeah. What are you trying to do? Adam. So Good Clean is Adam from The Leap. Hi, how you doing? All right. So in relation to what you actually do, in the last 3 live streams, I've been showing you how I am progressively upgrading what I'm doing by actually doing it. Yeah, in idea generation, well, in the setup, in idea generation, and in drafting, in a kind of arranging things dynamically. And in the first instance, in terms of mixing, I mean, it's kind of related to what we've already talked about, is essentially, it's pre-production, doing things at the start. Okay, so let me show you and what I'm actually talking about here. So this is very, very simple. I mean, I've only just started building this new setup here. This is Gig Performer, by the way. This new setup here. Could I show you my old one, which is a bit more? Hopefully, it won't break. No, it won't, because I'm streaming on a different thing. Let me see if I can find a old one. Hang on, 2 secs. Yes, all right. I don't know. Let's try this one. Oh no. That's weird. Oh, here. Yeah, this one will do. One, two. Okay. Yeah, right. Sorry, I just broke by opening that up, you saw what it was like. I just broke the system that I'd set. I've forgotten I'm actually using this for the mic to come through. I've totally forgotten about that. Okay, so anyway. So you saw it was way more complicated, okay, than this. And eventually, this new setup will be, something similar to that. But what I did was I started to build it from the ground up. And it's actually probably much more useful for you if you want to move your process to more dynamic to see it at this stage, okay, rather than the way it was by the time in the previous iteration, okay. So the first goal with dynamic mixing is actually something which is less dynamic than you might think, because you got to have, in order to be dynamic, you need a sort of a firm foundation, if you like, because if everything is changing, then you can't change. Yeah, I think that's the problem. That's why we're so static in the process, is because if we're always changing everything, you have to have some fixed point, and that ends up being you. Oh no, everything's changing. I'm always changing everything. I'm using a different sound for absolutely every single time. Therefore, I'm just like this. So instead of doing that, you have a firm foundation which you progressively upgrade, which means that you can actually be much more dynamic about what you do in the process. Okay, so the way I would start with this, and this is, the way I'd start with this is having the minimum number of parts in order to say that you've got a piece of music, right? And progressively build up from there. So here you can see I've got the DFAM coming in here. This is my mic, by the way. I've got the DFAM coming in here. Okay, and that is essentially just doing a kick and kind of bass type thing. I'm gonna have to put my headphones on. Okay. Okay. So if I was to just have the DFAM without anything, hang on a minute, what's going on here? So, oh yeah, okay, cool. I just wanted to check. I think it's because I've got the mic on, I can't hear things as clearly. Right, so it's about essentially setting up your chains ahead of time. And I've got this really simple at the moment. But basically, what you do is you start by going, okay, I'm going to use this set of instruments. Okay. I'm going to use this set of instruments, and over the course of finishing the next, the pieces of music that I'm finishing, I'm going to progressively upgrade my chain. Yeah, based upon what happens in the last track. Okay, so you can see how this is thinking about that flip from how do I finish this static single piece of best music to how do I get the best, how do I progressively improve my setup by finishing more and more music? Because the thing is, you need to finish the music in order to be able to do this. Yeah, so it's almost like the finished music just becomes the process through which you upgrade your setup. Yeah. So the way I've got it set up at the moment is that I'm coming through this plugin here, which is by what they called Goodhertz. Why I've decided, you can see I've got this. It's called Tupe, which is a combination of Tupe and Tape, and I've got them on all of the Moogs. Okay, because the reason for that is that they're very lightweight, okay, and zero latency as well. Now, and also they're really good. Obviously, they sound really good. But on top of that, I might have to change something around here. Actually, I've got I'm using the Universal Audio stuff. Hang on. Where are we? Oh, I know. Again, apologies for me not being so quick with the live streaming stuff. It's because I'm doing it a totally different way with 2 computers, which is very confusing. I'll get used to it soon. Hello, where are you? Hello. This. Why is that not showing up? Weird. There we go. Is it that? Yeah, okay. So this is my vocal mic, but the DFAM is going in here. So I've actually, before it goes through any of that stuff, it's going into an API preamp and just a little bit of Fairchild compression, just to knock the edges off it a bit and give it a bit of thickness. Okay, so it goes into an API preamp, then into Fairchild compressor. It's very light compression there, and then it comes out here and into this plugin. Now, eventually, I'm not doing this yet, but eventually in the computer, I'm going to assign some of these controls, okay, to controllers here. I haven't done it yet. Okay, so at the moment I'm just using, here you go, DFAM Global 210801. So this was the last time I actually changed anything about it. Okay, so 210801 is the 1st of August 2021. I always put my dates the opposite way around because I speak to English and American people all the time, and it's like I just do something different. Do backwards, literally backwards. So 21801. So that was the last time I saved this patch. Eventually, I'm going to automate some of these things because you can do really cool things while performing, right? Obviously, so by adding more of you can do that. Okay. In the previous iteration, I also used this plugin, which I am going to add at some point, but I've taken it away for now because I'm not overwhelming myself. I'm keeping it simple. Okay, so that's where are we? I don't have all of these plugins, by the way. Most of these are demos. Hang on, where are we? Saturn 2. I never know whether to use an audio unit or a VST3. I'm never sure about that. Anyway, so what was it? Yeah, I've got this set up here, facial distortion, and these things are automated, and I can do cool sort of distortion things with the DFAM. But I'm not using that right now just because I'm overwhelmed with other things. Okay, so this is one of the benefits of thinking about upgrading your process over time through the finishing of music, in that the music becomes, I mean, it is obviously the most important thing, but it becomes less important. I don't mind that it's not sounding amazing right now because I know that it will by doing this. Okay, so I finish pieces of music in order to upgrade the process. So eventually I'm going to have other things coming through here, other things in here before it comes out here. Don't worry about this to Rackspaces from Rackspaces business. The chain here goes like this. Okay, so I've got the same thing on the subharmonicon. I mean, not the same setting, but the same thing. Then here I've got the subharmonicon going into a, essentially I'm using this as a tape unit, but I'm using it as a delay really. And again, I have automated some of this actually. I think I did it in a previous stream. So I can dynamically change things about the effects, okay, when I'm performing the thing. Okay, so this is one of the definitions of dynamic, obviously, is dynamically mixing when you're actually playing the the thing in. And you can do this in a DAW. You don't have to do this just when if you're doing it live. Okay, so. All right, let's open this. Oh, you can't see. Sorry. Here we go, yeah. So this satin. So this is the DFAM chain here. Yeah, don't worry about this to rack spaces from rack spaces thing now. Okay, and this is so this tube is on everything, and then I can automate this to what's going on? There you go. So I can change things about the effects. It's weird, I don't know why that's not. Oh, there we go, feedback. Yeah. I thought I automated that, but I obviously didn't. Yeah. Okay. Stop. Right. And the same with this. I haven't automated any of this. So again, this is always a work in progress. This template, if you like, is a work in progress. This is my performance template. So if you're in a DAW, what you'd be doing, you'd be using the same instrument starting point, and there would be certain things in terms of your mix that you would choose to automate when you come to do the mix. Yeah, so you may choose to automate. The first thing would be volume, various different volumes. The second thing would be various different effects, and I wouldn't do too much of it because ideally you'd only be doing like a take through. So don't try and I know I need to do an automation, then 7,000 different passes of automating everything. Just keep it simple at first. Okay. The second dynamic part of it is actually letting the gear be dynamics, and this is what's going on down here. Okay, so as I said, ideally, what I would like to get to the point of is where when it comes to the finishing mix rather than the performance mix, is that I do the performance and then I don't really need to mix anything. All I need to do is master the thing. Okay, so where I start with that is by using a couple of plugins here, which are very, very handy. One is Gullfoss, and this is Gullfoss Live, which is a dynamic EQ. But it's very, very easy to use because there's only like 5 controls, and it kind of does some weird stuff that just make it sound better. So let's get both of these up actually. And I'm not going to do can you hear the difference? It does sound different, and it does sound better because just look it up online if you want that. But this is the live version because it's slightly lower quality, but it's it's got lower latency, so that's why I'm using this. So this is the DFAM one, and essentially what you do is it's got 5 controls: recover, tame. Let me check, see if people. So essentially, this is changed. So you've got 5 controls. You've got recover, tame, bias, brighten, and boost. And recover, it listens to what's coming in, and it boosts certain frequencies which it thinks it needs to boost, basically. And you can do it up to 200% and to naught. And tame cuts frequencies it thinks it needs to cut. Okay, so you can hear the sound of the DFAM changing there. Yeah. So I'm recovering and taming there. So that's what it thinks it needs to do, right? So, but you just want to have a light touch at this stage because we're going in. Remember, this is the first part. So let's just say, I don't know, 20%. You just listen, and then what you do is you change this bias setting so that this line here. I mean, you use your ears as well, right? Don't 100% believe what it says, but this is a good starting point, right? So it's kind of bouncing around the middle, yeah. And then here you've got this brighten setting. So if I was just to keep it, yeah, so that it's just in the middle. Again, use your ears. I often don't have the brighten setting on what it's telling me. Okay, and then this boost is how much it's doing it. What you've set, yeah. So that's too much, obviously. So I just very, very light touch here. Okay, and the same with the subharmonicon. Now I've tried using these with and without, and I can't really explain why it sounds better, but it just does. It just sounds better. So I would thoroughly recommend Gullfoss. And the non, I mean, when you buy it, you get the live version and the non-live version. So when I'm finishing something, I would use the non-live version again, and you can use it on whole mixes as well. Just very, very lightly to just make things come alive somehow. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I'm just starting to experiment with using in this live setting is Trackspacer. And I don't know whether I want to do it the other way around. So have Trackspacer first and then Gullfoss. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is what I've got it set up at the moment. So essentially one of the things that I've found when mixing the stuff that I've been doing is that there is often a problem between the DFAM and the subharmonicon where they're severely interfering with each other. Okay, so I'm testing this at the moment, and essentially what I'm doing is when the DFAM plays, yeah, it's going into the subharmonicon Trackspacer, okay, and it's telling it what it's playing. Yeah, and vice versa. When the subharmonicon plays, it's going into the DFAM Trackspacer and telling it what it's playing. And what I've got it set up is that it's like a kind of mirror image of each other. So that here, let me get this right, the DFAM is essentially telling the subharmonicon Trackspacer to cut certain frequencies around which it's playing. Yeah, so let's just look at, so this is the subharmonicon Trackspacer. Let's just have a look again. So this is the DFAM signal coming in, yeah, here, yeah, the blue line, and it's cutting this, yeah, the EQ is cutting this, yeah, so if I turn it down, so now there are nothing is being cut out of the subharmonicon. And when I turn it up, you can hear it'll get all the way. Can you hear that? It's getting way like less bassy. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take it out here so you can just hear it without the DFAM. Can you hear that? Yeah, that's 100%. That's too much, but so that you can hear all the bass in. So in other words, it's dynamically, it's doing that sucking thing, right? So, and this shaded area here is that this is only doing it up until about 1,000 hertz. Yeah, so anything above 1,000 hertz aren't being affected. So it's letting through the high frequencies. Yeah, I might just chill out a bit, it's quite full on. Yeah, and vice versa. Okay, so the mirror image is being done to the DFAM. So here you can hear the subharmonicon coming, you can see the subharmonicon being sent in, right? But because I've got this set up to about the same, 1,000 hertz. Yeah, where is it? Where's the setting? Here. About 1,000 kilohertz. No, 1 kilohertz, sorry. Then it's not affecting the DFAM down there, but it is cutting here, you can see. Yeah. It's cutting there. So, but if I was to turn it up, it's not as clear on the the DFAM. So can you hear that click coming out? Of the DFAM, yeah. I'll just to show you, I'll just turn it. Yeah, so now the subharmonicon, even though you can't hear it because I've muted it, is cutting EQ out of the DFAM. Obviously that's way too much because I've put it all the way down. Okay. So you still want it to sound like a kick, but it's just giving it a hand, right? Yeah. So in other words, what I'm doing is, obviously this is using dynamic technology to sort out problems beforehand. So it's almost like pre-performance production. Yeah, and I mean, I'm fiddling around with this. I'm trying different things by finishing music. Yeah, so I'm upgrading this all the time. So you might, you know, in a week or 3 weeks, if you see me doing it again, this might be in a different order, or there might be different things here, or this might be up here, or this might be down there. It's like, but I'm using the same basic sounds, the same equipment, because then that allows me to fiddle around with these things and still be finishing lots of music. Right? Still be making progress, still be motivated by the exciting tune that I'm finishing right now, rather than like doing this on the same tune and like losing my mind. Yeah, trying to get it done. Okay, and then basically we've just got standard compression going out. All right, so I've got when I record, yeah, I have both these machines going in. I've got recordings of the clean signal, 0 of this chain, yeah, but also I will have this signal as well, so I'm not losing anything. Yeah. So if you were doing this in a DAW, it would actually be easier because you don't have to record audio in. Yeah. So I mean, you can essentially do the same thing, and it would be a lot simpler. Okay. So that, you know, this over time, as I said, I will automate some of this stuff up here. I will, you know, get to automate other stuff as well. I'm not at the moment. I'm automating a bit of effect here, but essentially that's the idea with the production, is to get something that's progressively getting better over time. Okay, and as I add more instruments in the future, it will be the same process. So just before this, I did actually try and record something that I could show you the bit where you're actually doing the mixing. Unfortunately, I forgot to press record down here. So I might just have to do it again. But before I do that, let me just see if there are any questions. And all right, so Adam says, me mixing is that I'm trying to get the sounds to work together, produce an overall feeling to get them all nice and loud without attacking each other's space. Yeah, so I think great. There is a slight, I'm trying to get the sounds to work together, produce an overall feeling. So to get them all nice and loud, right? So that's the mistake, right? In order, I mean, I've only got 3 things here, so they kind of can be all nice and loud. Well, 4 things, including the piano. But if you're talking about mixing a piece of music, you don't actually necessarily want everything nice and loud. Yeah, to get them all nice and loud. If everything is nice and loud, then nothing is nice and loud. Okay, so that's the first thing. A lot of people, I mean, including great mix engineers, talk about balance, and I'm not sure that's a great way of thinking about it. I know what people mean when they say balance, and there is an element of truth to it, but I'm not sure it's the best way of thinking about mixing. Or put it this way, it leads you to do things that might not be the best thing to do. I don't think about mixing anymore. I did for a long time. I don't think about mixing anymore in terms of balance. I'm trying to get everything nice and loud, for instance. I think about mixing in terms of creating space, creating different spaces. Okay. Because if you want to create a space, then you need to create width, and it's obvious how to create width. You know, you've got panning and you've got various different effects that you can use. I want to create height, and you do that by the frequency ranges, so having, you know, things up there and things down there. But crucially, in order to create a space, you also need depth. And one of the ways that you create depth is through volume and things not being loud. Yeah, things being far away. The way we perceive that is that, well, one of the ways we perceive it is that it's quieter. Okay, so having everything nice and loud is going to lead to you having a flat, or when I say flat, I mean not deep. Yeah, what's the opposite of not deep? Can't remember. Shallow mix. Yeah, just like a piece of paper. And it's absolutely guaranteed, if you've got a flat mix like that, you know, not deep, it's one of the ways that your music will sound like it's coming out of a door. That's how, I mean, you know, even if it isn't coming out of a door, it will sound like it is, because it's not got that depth. Yeah. And one of the ways you do that is by having certain things not nice and loud, having them nice and quiet, even so that you can't really hear them. You know, when I started out mixing, I used to think, I've got to make sure that I can hear everything all the way through. That's absolutely not the case. It takes ages. You can't do it, and it's not particularly effective either. Yeah. So decide what you want to have nice and loud, and decide what you don't want to have nice and loud. Yeah. And if you're doing it dynamically in the process, you can actually turn things up and down. I mean, that's one of the things. Turn things up and down all the time. Well, not all the time, but in response to what you actually want it to do. Yeah, so that some things get nice and louder, and some things get nice and softer. Yes, sorry about my sound going out, Shoni. It was because I changed my thing. And also sorry about using the wrong screen, Marius. Okay, so, all right. So James says, in mixing, I want to make the music jump out the speakers, add depth, increase the loudness potential, manage dynamics and width, draw the listener to the focal point in music. Yeah, okay, so brilliant. So James, how you make the music jump out the speakers is by having things quiet, sections quiet and things quiet, and also creating this sense of 3D space. I call it 4-dimensional space because you've got time as well. So you want things changing through time. Yeah. Okay. So let me now just do a quick, what I'm going to do, and I tried to do this beforehand, so forgive me, but I forgot to press record. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick little track. Yeah, it's the same track as I've been working on. I'm going to do a quick little kind of performed track so that I can then, and hopefully it doesn't break my audio. Yeah, I haven't tested it actually. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. If it breaks it, it breaks it. In fact, let me just see. What I'll do is I'll open up Logic right now, because I'll do it in Logic, and if it breaks my sound, then I won't be able to do what I think I'm going to do. Because sometimes it stops things from working, or I get some kind of weird 1, 2, there we go, audio. I think we're okay. Yep, okay, brilliant. So I'm just going to shut that for now. Close And I'm going to do a quick recording because then we can talk about the dynamic mixing at the end of the process, right? So we've done a bit anyway of the setup, yeah, so that we can dynamically mix. So I'll just do a quick 5-minute thing. That's my, what am I doing? There we go. All right. So I'm going to, here, what I'm recording in, I don't think actually the monitor is recording anything at the moment, doesn't matter anyway. So this is the, what is this? Oh yeah, so this is the dry, can you see that? Yeah. So this is the dry DFAM. This is the dry subharmonicon. This is the dry Mother 32, and I've got these checked just in case, and I think that's a bit silly because I don't think they are anything. But anyway, I'm going to keep them checked because I don't want to have to do it again just in case. Right, I'll check it out later. And this Virtual 1 is the chained DFAM. Virtual 2 is the chained subharmonicon. Virtual 3 is the chained whatchamacallit, Mother 32. Actually, no, I think it's the other, no, sorry. 1 and 2 are the piano. 3, 4, and 5 are the Moogs chained. Yeah, going through that chained. Anyway, that's the theory. Hopefully it works. So I'm just going to quickly do this. I'll be as quick as I can so that I can just quickly show you the other part of dynamic mixing. Okay, so, and bear in mind, what my ideal with this is not to eventually not have to do the end part at all. Yes, I don't have to do the bit where I'm actually like doing it in Logic or whatever. So anyway, let's just get on with it and stop blathering on. Let's go on there. All right, okay, I think we're good to go. Okay, that'll do. So, let me just stop the recording here. Okay, and let me just check, see if there are any questions coming in. Okay, cool. So, I've now got the recordings. Let's go back to Logic. And you could do this with any DAW, it doesn't matter what. I don't only use Logic. Let me just go to this one and make sure that I'm showing the right thing. Where are we? So what I'll do is I'll just share the whole screen. Where are you? Here we are. Sorry about this, folks. Just get my head around it. There we go, that'll do. Alright. So, one thing to bear in mind is, simplicity. So because, I've made that mindset shift, which I was talking about, which is it's moving from what's the best setup and process to make the best finished music, right? And I do want to make the best finished music. Definitely want to do that, but that's not how I think about it anymore. I think that's a static way of thinking about it because you're focused on the static result, which is always static. My way of thinking about it now is how do I what does the finished music teach me, show me about improving my setup and my process? Yeah. So what that does is it shifts your mind from the thing which is always static, the end result. Yeah, it will always be the same when you finished it. Yeah. To the thing which is always changing, which is your process and your setup. I think one of the mistakes people make with this process in the setup is they're trying to find a static thing. Yeah. It's a full... Oh, what's happened? Hello. Oh, no. Hello. There we go. Phew. Just went a bit funny. I don't know if it did for you. Yeah, it's a fool's game because it just doesn't exist. Yeah, because you want to improve all the time, don't you? Obviously. So therefore, it's never going to be static. So accept that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right, so let's see if I can find the various bits that we need. So virtual 1 and 2 should be, if I'm right. Yep. Should be the piano. Fingers crossed this has worked. Is that, yep. Oh God, I don't know what's going on with my sound, my mic every now and again. Anyway, I'll sort that out another time. All right, so that's the piano. Let's just check that. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. No, you can't hear it. Neither can I. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Maybe we won't be able to hear it. I'll just have to show you. Let me just check this. Thing is, I'm worrying about breaking the sound. What am I doing? Preferences. That's a bit worrying. Yeah, I'm going to leave it. I'm probably going to break something. Anyway, I'll show you. I'll show you what I'm doing. I'll just show you visually rather than actually hearing what we're doing. Okay. So, virtual. Okay. It's weird. It's whenever I seem to go to and drag something out of the thing. Anyway. Maybe I just won't talk when I do it. He says, doing it. Okay. Now, I haven't done this yet, but what I would probably do is I would also have a template here. Yeah, so I'd have a kind of mixing template where I'm bringing in my audio. If you're working in a DAW and you're not using hardware, and you don't need to do any of this jazz that I'm talking about here, yeah, you could just use the same template, right? But probably I've got my template in Gig Performer, and I'd have another template here. Yeah, so I'd do the same thing. I'd probably have, when I say the same thing, I might use, I don't know, maybe I'd use it. What's going on with my sound? Hello, one. Yeah, I'd use different, I don't know, it depends if they sounded good or not. I may well use different plugins, but I'd have a mixing chain on each channel here. And what I would do is I would determine which parts I'm going to dynamically change when I'm going to play the mix, right? And the things that I would be focused on are, number one, volume. Yeah, and number two, just a few select effects. Okay, and the purpose of performing the mix is to create space. Essentially, that's how I think about it. Okay, create space, and in so doing, create impact. Yeah, also create movement through time. Okay, so just thinking. Oh, I keep on getting this stuttering thing. I don't know why that is. I can't really shut anything down because it might break something. So yeah, anyway, we'll just have to deal with it. So this wasn't happening yesterday. Anyway, so in this case, let me just name these properly so that you know what they are. So that's piano left, piano right. This is the DFAM. This is the, what's that? This is the subharmonicon, and this is the Mother 32. Okay, so let me just do that so you can see it clearly. All right, so with the piano, at this point, I'm recording in the piano with all of the effects. So probably I would choose not to do an enormous amount with that aside from volume. So I would be with anything that you've got which already has a bunch of effect on it. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be automating any effects. There might be cases. So one thing I might do if I have a massive reverb is I might put a gate on it and do some kind of automating with a gate. But aside from that, I probably wouldn't. Or maybe a bit of chorus somewhere and everything. But I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just leave it like that. Okay. So, but I would actually automate when I was performing the mix the volume. Yeah. So I would assign these to a MIDI controller. Yeah, I'm not going to do it now because we can't hear it. But I would assign these to a MIDI and be able to automate the volume. Yeah. Similarly, I would probably assign, and I think I probably would. I would assign. Did that play all the way through? Oh yeah, no. The reason it played all the way through is because it's recording not the mutes that I was doing. So that is something else I would do. I would automate the muting, and I would also automate the volume of all of the other parts. Yeah, so that's the other thing. I think volume is something that you can play with. I mean, if you're doing styles of music where the rhythm, so for instance, the kick doesn't really change, or the rhythm doesn't really change, you might not want to automate the volume in that. The thing is, I don't really care about that, and I'm interested in trying different things and playing with the. I don't really mind about DJs playing my stuff on the dance floor. That's not really what I'm doing anymore. I did it for years and years and years. So I probably would do that. But if you were making music for a dance floor to be on a record which DJs play, you probably wouldn't automate. I don't. You might, but you probably wouldn't automate the kick, for instance, if you were writing house music. Yeah. In terms of volume. Okay, so that's the other thing, but I would definitely have volume automation on the parts which aren't like the things that need to stay static. So essentially what I'm saying is decide what's static and decide what's dynamic, and the what parts are dynamic, and then assign those controllers to volume. And then I would probably, I am going to add a couple of other things which I would be able to automate. Things like effects. Yeah. So delays, tape delays are absolutely brilliant. Because I've got tape delays things going on here in the piano, I'm probably going to also do it with the Mother 32, and possibly with the sub harmonicon. Reverbs, that kind of thing. And essentially what I would then do, so I've got this up here, and so once I've assigned my controllers, I'm not going to show you how to do that because it's like, it's very, very simple and it depends on your DAW. But basically you assign things to a MIDI controller, yeah, and you've decided what that is. And then what I would do is I would then get the levels basically set. Yeah. I would actually show you this, but there's something weird going on with my sound, so I can't. But essentially, I would set the starting point levels based upon what I was talking about in terms of creating these spaces. So I would do a mix, if you like, a kind of static mix in which I would automate the things I've just spoken about. Okay, so there's like a starting point, and I would do it in a way that is to thinking about the different spaces. So in here we've got different sections. We've got the middle section here. So I would think about that being a different section. So how would I do that? Maybe I would have some reverb on something, or basically create a bigger space or a smaller space or whatever. So I'd be actually creating these different spaces. So each section has exists in a different space, and that would be the starting point in which I would perform the automation into. Yeah. What else was I going to say? I was going to say something else and I've lost my thread now. No, it's gone. Anyway, yeah. So oh yes, that was it. In that session, in the actual setup of the starting point. Yeah, when I say starting point, I mean the starting point mix. I would treat that session as a performance as well. Now, I don't mean a performance in terms of automating anything or performing anything, but I would set a timer and say, right, I've got half an hour to do this starting point mix, right? So I'm going to create two spaces. Section A is going to be small and kind of claustrophobic, and section B is going to be big and wide and massive. Yeah, and sorry about the sound. Using these 5 parts, I'm going to create those two spaces. I'm going to give myself half an hour to do it. Oops. I'm going to give myself half an hour to do it. And yeah, I would do it, and it would be over in half an hour. And when I say treat it as a performance, I would then review how it went as a performance. Yeah, it's like the session is a performance. You're not performing anything, but you're performing a mix. Yeah, which is a different version of kind of another way of thinking about being dynamic. You're actually looking at the process of creating a mix as a performance. Yeah. So now you've got this starting point with two different spaces created, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it's not going to be perfect in half an hour, and it can't be anyway. Perfection, you won't ever get there. So that's okay. So you just have a starting point, which is with these two different spaces, contrasting spaces. Then, because you've automated various different things, a couple of effects and the volume, I would save it as something else, create a new version, and then I would do a number of different takes of me playing with the automation controllers, yeah, volume and the effects that I determined I wanted to change. Yeah, so I would maybe do 3 or 4 takes. Yeah, not worry about it. Export the result and then listen back. And so we've got a lot of different ways of being dynamic now. We've got number one, we're dynamically upgrading our starting point template, the one I was showing you in, I'm going to shut this for Logic down because I think it might be that that's causing it to wibble. I won't say that for now. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I think it was Logic. I knew there would be a problem. Anyway, so go back to Gig Performer. Hang on. On future streams, I will gradually get better at this. So yeah, so we've got being dynamic in terms of using finished music to sort of dynamically improve the starting point template, number one. The mixing template, if you like, so the sound of it going in. Yeah, we've got number two, being dynamic in actually performing the music itself. Yeah, in terms of mixing, so turning up volumes and down volumes and effects. Yeah. Number three, we've got being dynamic in once you've got the piece, yeah, that you're going to mix, you've got being dynamic in terms of treating the starting point setup of the mix where you're creating the two spaces. You've got treating that as a performance. That is being dynamic. So instead of like thinking, well, this is going to go on forever and, you know, and it's perfect, then it'll be like, that's very, very static way of thinking. It's like you're practicing or performing, doing that thing, yeah, in a certain amount of time. And then you're reporting on it afterwards. Well, what went well? What were the problems? What would I do differently next time? Yeah. And then finally, you're being dynamic in the dub producer sense, yeah, where you're actually performing the mix, right? So automation on volume and effects and, you know, tape delays and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so in that way, you're essentially kind of imbuing your whole process dynamically. And then you finish the piece of music, and obviously there is a bit at the end where you just kind of have to make sure that the mistakes are, you know, it doesn't, you're not making people's ears bleed and what have you. But you basically finish it, and you understand that this piece of music is not going to be perfect. I mean, it wouldn't anyway. It's not going to be the best thing that you ever make. But that doesn't matter, because the other way that you're being dynamic is by literally your whole mindset is one where you're focusing on improving your process. What does my finished music teach me, show me about how to improve my process and my setup, rather than the static mindset of how do I get the best process stroke setup to make the best finished music, which is focusing you on the static thing. Okay, so you can see what a kind of fundamental shift this is, and how this whole doorless versus door thing, this hardware versus software thing, is immaterial to it. It's like, yeah, there is an element where it makes it's almost like things like these Moogs over here do cause you to be more dynamic. They force you to be more dynamic, but it's kind of besides the point, because you can do it in a door. In fact, some of the things I have to do here, because I'm using hardware, are actually more difficult, more of a ball ache than they would be if I was just using a door. So that's it for today. Sorry about the technical issues. Again, this is a work in progress. I'm dynamically upgrading my ability to do these live streams. Let's see if you have any questions at all. If anyone has any questions. While I'm waiting for the questions, actually, so the week after next, I'm doing a program about this, not just about the mixing, but about the whole process. It's called the 7-Day Track Blitz, and it's a live, again, dynamic. So it's a live program where a live online program of 4 workshops. It'll be about 90 minutes each. About 90 minutes each, and we'll be doing this like from soup to nuts. So all the way from setup to idea generation to like actually performing the arrangement, the dynamic drafting, to the dynamic mixing process. I'm going to give you specific things to do in each workshop to actually get you to do this. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a DAW or if you're out of a DAW, whether you're on modular, whether you're on your hardware, whether you're on software. This is something that I'm sure will lead to a much more fun process. So if you're interested in that and you're on my email list, then watch out for an email, and I'll send you an email about that next week. In fact, I think it's coming today. Well, it's coming on your Monday or my Monday. But if you're not on my email list, just send me an email direct to me, mike@makemusicyourlife.com, and I'll send you the details. Cool. All right. Well, I don't think there are any questions. Once again, sorry about the technical difficulties. I actually realized yesterday that I'm going to have to move my studio around, this new place around again. I haven't got it in the right way. I'm actually going to have to move it 90 degrees because I've got light problems. Essentially, it's really, really dark in here, and also light shines through this backdrop that I've got. So I'm going to have to move it all around, which is a whole other thing. But aside from that, trying to move to two computers, so I'm streaming on one and sort of showing the stuff on the other is proving to be something of a headache. I'm having all kinds of technical issues. But anyway, at least hopefully you've been able to see and hear me. I'm going to keep live streaming my performances every day, and I will be back on this channel with more of what I'm doing. I think what I might actually do is, because I definitely want to be streaming a piece of music, like a kind of performance every day. I've been doing it for God knows how many days now, so I can't stop doing that. But what I might do is actually show the progressive upgrading of the stuff that I'm doing as well. So the last 4 live streams like this, me talking live streams like this, have been kind of very me teaching you things, and I think for the next little while it'd probably be more just showing you what I'm doing. So make sure you subscribe, and don't forget to send me an email to mike@makemusicyourlife.com if you're interested in that program I'm doing the week after next. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's been great to hang out for the last 4 sessions, and until the next time, all that's left to be said is onwards and upwards.